Hello and welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Nick Rohn, Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network, and I'm excited for a special program today. We have the start of our Water Asset Leadership Series roundtable, and we are going to have multiple events on this subject in the next few weeks. But today we have the Palm Beach County, Florida water utilities team here, and they were certified to ISO 55001 standard, and that was the first in the US. So we're really excited to talk to their team about that process. But before we get underway, we just want to thank our ALN patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, as well as all our organizational members who help make this possible. And I especially want to mention Mentor APM at this time because Jennifer Zach, their Chief Marketing Officer, is here with us today, and she's going to be facilitating our panel. And she is also going to be featured in 2 weeks on our February 6th program that will finish up this Water Asset Leadership Series. And there, I believe we're going to be demoing an AI asset management assessment tool for water and all assets. And we also have next week an EPA water asset management framework discussion, and David Topman, one of the ALN senior fellows, and also ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers liaison to TC 251. David's done a lot of things, and it will be really interesting to hear from him next week. So stick with us. If you're viewing this program after the fact, maybe you can join these other programs up and coming. And with that, I will just say, Jennifer, Zach, would you join me here? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Nick. Great to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Why don't you take us away?
Great. Well, I am really privileged to be invited to kick off our sort of water asset management series. At the Asset Leadership Network, the ALN, we cover asset management across many, many sectors, but the water sector is the one that's near and dear to my heart. That is the sector that we are most active in at Mentor APM, providing asset management solutions built specifically for water and wastewater utilities. So I love it when we get to talk about asset management in the water space. There are just unique things about water utilities, wastewater utilities, water assets that deserve some consideration and attention, and then the opportunity, of course, to share cross-sector learning. So very excited about that. Today, we're going to be talking with Palm Beach County. And first, we're going to kick it off with Mark Knight to review a joint paper that was prepared by the Asset Leadership Network and the IAM. So, Mark, are you able to join us? I got to see my view.
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, Mark, great to be with you today. We would love to hear a little bit about the origin of this paper, the effort to produce it. I know this was a joint effort between the IAM and the Institute of Asset Management and the Asset Leadership Network. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about how this paper came to be.
Yeah, sure. Well, this was actually the second collaboration between the two organizations. I've actually got another one in mind that I want to talk to Mike about offline. But first and foremost, I think we need to give credit to George Galambos. George took it upon himself to dive in and write this paper, and then we had to push it through both organizations to get it published. So, great job by George, but also thanks to all the ALN senior fellows who reviewed this, and also all the IAM members who had to review it. As Mike would say, I think the link between the IAM and the ALN is important. Asset management's all about coordination. I mean, it's in the definition, right? So having industry associations actually coordinate and collaborate, I think, is a great example of us walking the walk. So parts of the federal government have had fairly long-term focus on asset management. I think states are aware of it more and more these days. On different levels, I think the Michigan Infrastructure Council is doing an awesome job in Michigan of promoting asset management there. But George's paper looks at initiatives across states in response to EPA regulations. It looks at 4 categories, which are funding activities, regulatory activities, assistance activities, and internal activities. It explains what those are. And it has some stats, and so it's got tables of numbers as well as graphics for people who absorb information differently. I think the numbers of each of those initiatives in 3 of the areas, it's actually increased over 12 years, other than the internal initiatives, which has slowly been falling. So I don't know if that's a result of water utilities having been successful in promoting it, or whether they're losing interest. So I know you and I had exchanged a couple of quick emails before this. The choice of wording in the paper caused a lot of discussion during the reviews, because in the Act, it requires state drinking water programs to consider and include asset management plans. So do they have to consider it, or do they have to do it? There's a big difference between compelling somebody to consider something versus actually compelling them to do it. So we had to dive back into the legislation and look at the Code of Federal Regulations just to verify that. But I mean, George's interpretation is that it means that states are compelled to encourage public water systems to develop an asset management plan, and they're free to accept the encouragement or not. So as we said in our emails, it's a pretty flimsy stick if that's what it was intended to be. But some states are actually imposing penalties for not doing that. And it hasn't stopped anybody's license renewals, but again, it is a tool there, and I think it's better as a carrot than a stick. If people choose to, like Palm Beach Water did, instead of checking off the checkbox as part of a compliance activity versus pursuing best practice, the best practice approach is always going to yield better results.
I think that's a very interesting thing, and I think it's reflective of the nature of sort of being a water utility in the United States compared to other countries, where we're very fragmented here. We're very different from state to state. We've got a lot of local and state regulations that aren't necessarily universal. And I think also understanding how the EPA works and EPA regions. We dove into this a little bit ourselves. It actually ended up being in parallel to this effort, as we were trying to understand for our clients, how can we help you better? And the term I came up with was asset management opportunities and obligations. Because as you noted, there are some states that are saying you must do this in order to retain your permit. Not clear what the accountability is like. And then other states that are saying, hey, asset management is a great idea, and we'd love you to think about it. And here are some resources. So definitely, we saw a wide variance in how asset management is being promoted or expected in different states.
Yeah, and I think it's the fragmented nature of the legislation and regulation in this country that makes it challenging. But also, I mean, you see that in the electric industry as well. But electric utilities are generally pretty large. They cover multi-states, or there's only a few per state, whereas water utilities are generally a lot smaller. So it makes life a bit more challenging. But we did reach out to Palm Beach County while we were going through and sort of putting George's paper into a nice, well, hopefully nice PDF format. And Palm Beach County gave us some photos to use and offered their certification as a case study. So it's a strange white paper because it's almost like a magazine article, because it's got this little inset piece of a 2-page case study of the great work that Palm Beach County's been doing.
Well, I think that's fantastic. A white paper that looks more like a magazine article is more likely to get read.
Well,
So, Mark, if you wouldn't mind, could you just comment on perhaps some feedback that you've had, or how the committee producing this paper would hope for it to be used?
I think the few I didn't get a lot of comments during the production, but the few that we had were very positive about it being helpful. I think with this, it's as much about promoting what asset management is as much as anything else, and in line with what the states and the federal government's doing. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what asset management is, and I think part of what this paper can do is just, without getting all academic and diving into standards, it's just talking about it at an easy to read level.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I would definitely agree with you. There's a lot of misunderstanding and I think misapprehension about what it means to start an asset management program. The misunderstanding could be, I bought software, therefore I'm doing asset management. In misapprehension, this is going to be really hard and difficult. I don't know if it's worth it.
Well, I know one of the things I say to utilities, and I think Mike has said that Jim Dieter uses the same approach. But if you look at the standard, obviously there's a lot in putting an asset management system together. If you look at the work that the Global Forum on Maintenance and Asset Management has done, it breaks asset management into 40 different disciplines. And you look at that and you think, whoa, that's a lot. But the truth is, you're doing all of these things anyway. If you can coordinate the activities between those different groups, you're going to make great strides without even improving the individual areas of focus. I think coordination and communication are really critical.
Absolutely. I think, that communication across different silos, business divisions is so huge. We've definitely seen that, with utilities that are employing an asset management approach, even if they haven't pursued certification to the standard. But one of the things I often say is that you've got a lot of different people with different responsibilities making different decisions about the same assets. And so when you and I can understand what we both need to do about this shared asset, then we can be so much more coordinated and better set to achieve value. So, well, great. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing that. We're going to bring on the team now from Palm Beach County. We're going to bring up some slides. And I'm very pleased to introduce the director, Pollop Phonpornwithoon. And then his team, Anthony and Melody and Ken Gedman joining us from Stantec. I'll turn it over to you guys.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Really, thanks the Asset Leadership Network for the invite for us, right, to present in this forum or workshop. We're so glad to be here. We're glad to share what we've been through, our journey, and really with me, my team, Tony Armeli, the Director of Maintenance Division, Ms. Melody, the Technical Compliance Manager, and also our consultant, Mr. Ken Gedman. He's with Stantec.
Okay, so we have an excellent set of slides here for you guys to share some of your journey on achieving ISO 55000 certification. Fairly remarkable achievement. First water utility in the United States, and there aren't that many water utilities in the world, so we would love to hear all about that.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Anthony Armeli. I'm the Director of Maintenance here at Palm Beach County Water Utilities. We have 5 water plants and 3 wastewater plants that I manage as far as maintenance is concerned. I'm going to share our journey with you. So how we developed the Asset Management Improvement Program, how we implemented key elements on our asset management system, why focusing on people was critical to our success and the realization of tangible benefits, what we have learned in our decade-long asset management journey, and what we are doing to continuously improve. Again, we provide potable water, wastewater, and reclaim services. We're county-owned and governed by the Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners, enterprise funded and self-supported through utility revenues, and bought by Capital Bond Covenant, consistent AAA Moody AAA ratings organization since 2008, and we are the first ISO 55001 certified utility in North America. Again, we're the 3rd largest utility in the state of Florida. We serve 600,000+ residents. We employ 600 people. We have 110 million gallon a day treatment facility between the 5 water plants. We have a reclaimed water system with 25 million gallons a day treatment capacity. And we have a 65 million gallon a day treatment capacity on our wastewater side divided between 3 wastewater plants. What are our challenges, right? Internally, aging infrastructure and workforce. That's a challenge for everybody, I think, in this industry. Limited historical data, sections operating in silos, management of budgets and investments, efficient maintenance and management, lack of formalized procedures. External, we have population growth, which is exponential here in Florida right now. Strict regulation requirements with DEP, manage long-term capital improvement plans, resiliency and sustainability, along with inflation and supply chain issues. So what did we do? We did a reorganization. We tore down those silos. We separation of operations and maintenance, where operation can solely manage the process and the delivery of product to the customer, and maintenance division, we can maintain that facility through preventative maintenance and corrective maintenance programs. We drive consistent and uniform maintenance activities, consolidation of information and operational technology, monitor and control spending through our budget. We formed an asset management team. We have an asset manager, 7 planner schedulers, and an asset management coordinator. We provide quality assurance and quality control. We own our asset job plans, and we coordinate work with operations and maintenance. Subject matter experts determine the message. Select to provide guidance with an asset management improvement program, interim maturity assessment, and change management. We work closely with the ISO core team, and I was one of the participants in the ISO core team, to address potential challenges and the implementation phase of asset management ISO 55001. From the core team, we built the message. We formed and implemented the asset management improvement program, provided in-house ownership of the program, support change management. We learned from subject matter experts that reports to top management. We also recruited champions within the divisions within the utility department, recruited from different sections of the utility as part of our change management strategy. We provided improvement feedback to the ISO core team, disseminated the message to their peers, and act as internal barometers within their departments for the changes brought through by the framework. From here, I'm going to turn it over to one of our subject matter experts, Mr. Ken Gedman.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Tony. My name's Ken Gedman. I'm Director of Advisory Services for Stantec, based over in the UK, and I had the privilege to support Palm Beach County and the Water Utilities Department with their journey to implement their asset management system and to achieve certification to ISO 55001. So I'm going to start really with some of the benefits around going down the route of establishing an asset management system, and particularly that focus around certification. So there's lots of this slide here shows lots of different reasons why it's important or could be a benefit to the organization. It helps with credibility, It helps with differentiation within the market. It helps build stakeholder confidence. But really for us, beyond that kind of global recognition and being the kind of first organization in North America and the first utility, I should say, water utility to achieve ISO 55001 certification, there was some real tangible benefits that the business wants to achieve. So it was really looking at, well, we wanted to drive asset management improvement right across the business. And not just stop there, but to drive that continuous improvement beyond just the achieving a level 3 maturity across all the different aspects, but to really drive home that continuous improvement. It was also about managing risk within the organization, and risk management or risk-based approach is one of those key pillars around best practice asset management. So it was about understanding those risks, how to manage those risks, and to really sort of build that into the asset management approach. It was also about life cycle cost optimization as well. So looking to drive real benefits for the organization against that. And then also getting the organization right behind every effort to drive asset management as well. So really sort of aligning the strategic priorities of the business and the asset management kind of mission behind it. But one of the key messages, and I suppose you'll get from this, discussion today, is around that engagement and it being a people-led kind of process. One of the director of the utility was very, very clear that he wanted it to be a people-driven process, and I really believe that's what's driven such a successful process at Palm Beach County. You go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the kind of key elements that we kind of implemented now. So one of the kind of initial things, which was very good to start and get some momentum around the asset management improvement program, was to write the asset management policy. It really set out that intent of top management, what asset management meant within the organization. I remember we sat down, we wrote this, we got the director and also the director of maintenance at the time, operations and maintenance, to kind of sign off against that initial version of the policy. We then took it into the senior leadership team for him, and that was the start and the kind of rollout of the asset management journey, really. And it gave us that immediate uptick from that baseline maturity score that we kind of started with. So the asset management policy, like everything that's been done within the Water Utilities Department, it gets reviewed regularly, it gets updated appropriately, and then it gets cascaded and communicated right across the kind of business. And it's also a key part of the initial employee onboarding program. Next slide, please. So one of the key areas, and kind of Mike mentioned the work around strategic asset management plans elsewhere within the paper. One of the key focus points and a great kind of start as well was the development of the strategic asset management plan. And I guess from one of the opportunities that I guess we had was to help the utilities department write their own sort of plan. At Stantec, we've worked with many organizations to help organizations, develop and maintain a strategic asset management plan. So we had that kind of almost like templated approach that we could then sort of tailor for the organization to take. And then we sort of split it down into the various different key components of what you would expect to include. So that, part of that was setting out an executive summary, which set out the content and how the asset management plan and asset management system is structured. It was we talked about the development of the plan and how that would be updated in various different versions as it gets updated throughout through that part of that ongoing process. We talked about the asset management review. We talked about the pillars that were underpinned the whole kind of approach, really. So things like decision-making criteria, performance monitoring, the risk management approach, asset planning, all these kind of different elements, how that was, how we'd established that and how that was kind of delivered and developed. And then we also talked about some of the functional strategies, so some of the operational strategies, the maintenance strategies, and also capital program delivery. On this slide here, the kind of figure on here was again part of that SAMP. It was about developing what the asset planning approach is all about. So again, how asset management plans are developed, but also how needs are identified. So whether that's from performance monitoring, or whether it's from uptime assessment, or whether it's part of strategic studies, they then feed into an evaluation and analysis process. And then the decision making drives the kind of priorities, which then drive the solutions and those kind of programs of work, either through operational interventions or maintenance kind of approaches, or the capital improvement plan as well. And also the partway through the development of the improvement program and delivery of the improvement program, Palm Beach went down a route of developing its integrated utility master plan, which brought all that together. So in our experience, one of the real sort of challenges of demonstrating a compliant, an ISO 55001 compliant asset management system is how we address risk. So again, here is a bit of an overview really about how we address risk management. We took the principles and practices really from ISO 31000, which is the risk management standard, and then started to look at how we manage risk at different levels within the organization, and how that was applicable at those kind of different areas around asset risks, or there was asset system risks, or really was at that kind of portfolio level around asset management. There's also other tiers of risk management as well, and what we tried to show that kind of alignment throughout. But it was really important for us to develop a risk management process in terms of how we identified risks, how we analysed and evaluated those risks, but then also really importantly, how then we sort of managed and sort of treated those risks kind of going forward. So that was spelt out really through a policy, but then also embedded in the approaches and detail within the strategic asset management plan. And then really importantly, for any organization, I guess, is to set out the roles and responsibility for asset management. It's not a department, it's a pervasive approach right across the organization. So we spent a lot of time breaking down the different asset management activities against the original 39 subject areas in the original asset management landscape, and started to look at the various different roles and various different departments within the organization, and started to set out what we described as a RACI document. And if anyone's not familiar with that approach, RACI stands for Responsible, Accountable, Informed and Consult. And that's about setting out the different roles people play within the organization across those different asset management areas. So there was a lot of time really sort of consulting with the business and lots of different people to make sure that we got the kind of buy-in and the assurance that everybody clearly understood what their role was. And also, that was then translated into kind of a number of kind of different elements. It was translated into the role statements for all the positions and all the crafts within the organization around asset management. It was part of employee onboarding. And that again gets continuously reviewed by the technical compliance team. And then the last area I'll talk about before I hand over is around how we implemented or reviewed the kind of business processes, the critical processes around asset management within the organization. Now, for anyone who's done any business process mapping, as soon as you start mentioning that, the energy drains from the room. But actually, it was a very different, I suppose, response and reaction from everybody within Palm Beach. Everyone saw the value of mapping out the processes and understanding the kind of part that they played in lots of different asset management elements. And one of the kind of processes or key processes that we looked at was almost that start to finish around the capital investment programming process. So our needs are identified, prioritized all the way through to delivery, commissioning and handover. And so that took a lot of time, but I think it really paid dividends to get that message across to people about the importance of their role, of what they do. And importantly, if they don't do their bit, what knock-on effect that might have to the asset management effort going on. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to the next section now, and I think Melody's going to talk to this.
Right. Let me just advance this now. Right. Thank you, Ken, and hello, everyone. My name's Melody. I was a former asset manager and now moved into technical compliance. I've worked with the ISO core team with Tony and also with Ken, as Ken is our subject matter expert. So for this slide here, this is another piece of work we needed to do and to put in place is the internal audit program. So this looks at the entirety of the asset management system for potential gaps or opportunities. Any type of recommendations are set to our executive team or top management, and actions to address these opportunities and risks are carried out. So the audit report is also provided to our third-party assessors and is always posted on our SharePoint site for everyone to see because, you know, we want to show like transparency there. I am currently in the process of updating this to reflect the changes in the 2024 standard. So in terms of, I guess, the last key element that we wanted to discuss today is the implementation of, or how do we handle the enormous change of like this type of framework and, you know, that will bring to everyone and continues to bring to everyone. So we knew ahead of time that we will need consistency in our messaging and we had to be creative. So we developed an asset management communications plan and created marketing collaterals from trifolds to Q&A with our leadership to posters. In fact, like the first picture there, one of our ISO champions brought in Rice Krispie treats for her team to encourage them to read the asset management policy. And this is in our IT section. We also created videos to promote asset management and enlisted the help of like-minded individuals. I'm not going to play the video. There's actually an embedded video here. It's really fun. And it promotes that culture in the utility. So in terms of our outputs for like their journey, so for this slide, we have gone through a lot of activities and we've listed it here that created value for the individual and the organization. And this can be seen from our progress from the initial gap analysis that was performed in 2016, all the way to when we got our final score in 2021. We've reached over 500 plus employees and put in more than 2,000 labor hours in the implementation of the framework. And we measured all of this and captured that actually in our CMMS. So I also want to talk about like our recertification effort just for a moment. And we just finished this in June 2024. So the work we put in translates to what you see here, that 3.2 to 3.4, right? What does that mean? So our actions that define who we are as individuals, and you can see it here, they shape our reputation and earn the trust of our stakeholders. We want to build a legacy that pushes for continuous improvement and create that positive change in our organization. So having said that, we actually developed like this infographic to show our journey because like last year we were thinking about it and we're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be 10 years next year since we started this journey with like our director of maintenance who got into like O&M, John Acton. And as I look back, we have come a long way. And for those that are still new in your journey, and I won't sugarcoat it, right? It is a lot of work. My gosh, this white hair, lots of work in asset management, but it is the right kind of work. It means we embrace the challenges as opportunities for growth and transformation, rather than see this as obstacles to be avoided. So if we can impart as a team, like one lesson for the people who are viewing right now, stay the course, persevere, know that your efforts will leave a lasting impact for your organization. So with that, let me turn this over to our Assistant Department Director, Pollop. You're on, sir.
All right, thank you, Miss Melody. All right, so I mean, again, going through this journey, right, we face a lot of different questions, even through our administrations and our lower level staff. Again, the few of the question we faced was, well, you know, why focusing on people? Well, our people, our staff is the most critical asset that we have within our organization, right? You might have pumps, you might have other equipment, but again, people are the one that's running the show. You know, again, related to people, it's give them that sense of ownership, right? That accountability and really the legacy of operating those equipments. And another question we get often asked, well, how much did it cost for us to go through this journey? In the initial phase, we have Mr. Ken here assisting us, and a big portion was done really internal by Miss Melody here. So, you know, we tried to quantify it as best as we could. And from the initial phase of going through the audit and the initial certification, big picture, we're looking at about $500,000. And then in the subsequent phase, which is the recertification phase, a little bit less work, right? Because we have a lot of those frameworks set up. It's more of a renewal and continues to improve those steps, those process maps, and continue to make us better. And roughly that range, that cost is about $250,000. And this again include those surveillance, recertification with the auditor, and any related training. Next slides, please. All right, so again, some of the benefit that really come with the asset management culture. Again, for the leadership, right, it's reduced the service problem. We're more reliable in terms of the decision making. We're able to see risk faster or sooner, right? And for our employee, when we have those business process mapping for them or the process, it make it easier for them to follow. And again, we always update those job plans or work plan. And for our stakeholder, we ensure that our water quality meet all those required regulatory compliance and the level of service, right? Our reliability and also sustainability. And here's some of the example of what we do with the data, which again related to all of our asset, right? Some of the example here is, you know, the leak detection that we go through, or the risk assessment with the going through the engineering project, prioritizing which projects we want to do first, right? In every organization, you always, you know, you're gonna have limited budget, but which project would you push? Based on what? Based on the risk, based on the number of customer and things of that nature. But for us being a water industry, right, we have a lot of regulatory compliance that we have to meet to ensure that the drinking water that we supply, to ensure that the wastewater that we're taking in to treat, those meet all the applicable compliance with the state, with the health department. Next slide, please. Okay, and again, continuing on the benefit, the planned work versus the corrective work, right? The cost saving, we're looking at the between 12 and 18%. In some section, they're more than the other. But again, it's due because now that we planned all those work, it's definitely less expensive, right? Then we run into those emergency and it can cost significant and the disruption to our customer. The efficiencies gain as well due to those planned work. We were able to let the people know that, hey, we have to do certain things and be able to plan across the organization. We also track the preventive maintenance versus corrective maintenance ratio. Again, Mr. Tony here is the one that keeping track of all of those. Right now, we're trending between 6 or 7 preventive maintenance work order to 1 corrective, and workforce productivity. When they know that those works are being scheduled, they're able to plan their day much better than having to put out fire, like literally putting out fire, right? So definitely it's a reduction. It's less in terms of the overtime requests and things. Okay, and here's one example that we're able to put together for you today. It's related to the lift station condition-based assessment. We were able to bring this work in-house using the Maximo program. Previously, we would hire an engineering consultant, go to each one of those lift stations. They do their condition assessment based on a different criteria, give us the risk. And roughly each one of those lift station being assessed costs about $10,000, more or less, right? We were able to bring this work in-house, develop a risk assessment using, again, Maximo software, using Tableau to put all of this information together. And it was a significant cost saving. Next slide, please. Again, continuing on, so cost being one thing, right? But the skill development and really the knowledge, again, now we're sending our own people, our own lift station crew and a supervisor. So they're able to perform those assessments in-house, training the new staff, the new generation, again, with the hands-on experience that this is what they need to look into, be able to troubleshoot, and again, retain those in-house expertise, which again, for the future assessment, right, for maintenance planning, decision-making process. And as I mentioned before, definitely a big cost saving. Also, the integration with the asset management, our own staff using our own software, using those input, they know how much those pump cost, they know how much their time costs. We're able to put in or input into the software that we have and generate a risk assessment, able to rank them and be able to create a capital improvement program. And the responsiveness and flexibility, again, it's internal staff. We're able to mobilize quickly. We're able to say, hey, you need to do this area versus this area very quickly. Another critical factor is the leadership of the organization really to buy in on, right? Because the leadership is the sponsor of your program, right? Without them, really, there's no money, right? Leadership is the one that provide the money. They're able to provide the staff. So their buy-in is one of the key factor. Again, they're able to get the consultant, in this case, Mr. Ken Gedman, to come in and help us and along the way. We're able to retain those talents. We're able to get subject matter expert externally and internally to help out and be able to push this program forward. And we, at the end of the day, we own that program. Right, and again, the key thing here is our people, our staff, right? They're the one that hands-on, day in, day out, do the work and drive the performance. We serve 600,000 people, right, with 600 employees throughout our whole organization. And really, the journey is about the people. It's about the staff. And it's a continuous improvement process. That is the key to the ISO, right? It's not just one component. It's you always continues to improve, right? You always plan, you do the work, you check that work, and you act, and it go again in circle. So once we have the certification, really, the certification is not, to us, it's a nice piece of paper that we're able to show. But that's not the true point of why we're going for the ISO, right? It's for the organization that needs to evolve, that needs to change. We need to grow, So we are lucky to be one of the younger, right, about 50 years or so utility. We're not as older as like the North system where they're facing, a lot more aging. We know what's coming and we want to be ready for what's coming. And that's why we want to get there before we have to really, again, putting out fire. We want to do preventive, right? And as being an ISO certified utility or organization, we want to promote, again, our journey, what we've been through, and we're trying to share this information. Just exactly why we're here in this workshop. We want to share with other people what we've been through, good and bad and the hard time and all of that stuff, the challenges that we went through, what we learned from it. Again, Miss Melody here and myself, we created a chapter of South Florida Institute of Asset Management that we're able to get the other utility to join and able to share some of those information and bouncing off their ideas, right? Again, we're able to contribute as much as we can to other organizations. And really, in closing, we have a great team. We won an award. It's a tough journey. It's a challenging journey, as Ms. Melody mentioned before. It's been 10 years. We learned a lot along the way, both internally and externally. Right? We met a lot of different organization, a lot of great organization that we're able to learn a lot from them, and they're able to learn a lot from us. It's a really rewarding process that we've been through. And we're going to continue to do this. And again, thank you for the Asset Leadership Network. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Mike, for having us here presenting and be able to share what we have learned, a little bit of the knowledge that we have that we can share. Here is our contact information. If you have any question related to this journey, just obviously let us know. We'll be more than happy to share anything we can with you.
Thank you so much, Pollop, and team. This was a fantastic presentation. We had a number of requests for your slides. I believe they're going to be made available. I believe we've got some time for discussion. Is that right, Nick?
Yes, Jennifer, as long as the team from Palm Beach has time, we certainly have time.
Okay, so we've had a number of great questions placed in the chat, and also a lot of compliments to the team on your journey, and thanks for sharing it. One of our participants, Chris, lives in St. Lucie and would like you to go and help St. Lucie get certified as well. But I think a lot of questions came up around people, and people was definitely a very consistent theme, the importance of and the benefit to your people in asset management. There was a question about how you were able to engage external stakeholders, your community and others that benefit from your services. I was wondering if any of you would be able to comment on that.
Okay, so maybe I can take that on. So we do a lot. We have our own internal public relation outreach, sections, program, and staff that we're able to share a lot of this information. And we put stuff on the website, and that's how we're able to reach our customer. And we send stuff out with the billing as well to let them know. We share a lot of this information to our administration when we do presentation for them or with them.
Also to the advisory board.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
So key to
Great.
that would be like the asset management communications plan. So we've addressed like how we're going to handle internal and external type of communications, and what's the best way to what's the best venue or vehicle for it.
Thank you. There were also some questions. Just scrolling through. Okay, I've lost that one. So a question I had for you, generally some kind of software is part of this journey. And you mentioned several times Maximo, and that really the implementation of Maximo was part of the kicking off of this journey. Could you, and this is to any of the team, could you imagine, would you be as successful in your use of your technology if you hadn't gone through this asset management certification effort? And I think I just asked a yes, no question, so please feel free to comment beyond yes or no.
So I would go first. No, just because like in terms of like maximizing the data, like there are certain standards we have to follow, and even at the start of the journey, we had to make sure that we get certain like elements like pat down first. That's why for us, having the implementation of an enterprise asset management system and then getting all the asset information in and then building our maintenance program around that was like one of the key success factors, because typically some of the utilities will ask us like, so how do you start seeing like the data? I said, well, you won't see the data if you don't have it in like a particular system, right? So all the nice visualizations that we've shown, that's like a lot of data at this point. You know, we're 10 years of the journey, so we can show you that like, oh, like for example, like the lift station like the insource versus the outsource portion, like Pollop that has mentioned, I wouldn't be able to see that type of information if we didn't like build it in Maximo. That's one. And two, have enough time to gather the information and then look at the trend and the cost. So we built it in 2022. That's why we wanted to show it right now, because we just finished it. And then we get that information in, and then we looked at the trends and stuff. So
Well, thank you, Melody. Ken, I'm going to just throw it over to you. Can you imagine success in either implementing an asset management plan without technology, or implementing technology without an asset management plan, in your experience as an advisor in these situations?
Yeah, I guess it kind of plays a quite a significant, it's a bit like what Melody was saying. So technology kind of helps with gathering the data in an effective way. It kind of helps then sort of demonstrate the kind of benefits of implementing the asset management system and the processes. It helps drive decision making. But it's not impossible to do it. Without an asset management system, but it's an efficiency. It's kind of what you end up doing is seeing really sort of localized pockets of good endeavor, but it doesn't help from an enterprise approach. One thing I would say is, the technology kind of process that Palm Beach went through. I'm sure they'll kind of talk about, they'd had a run up at Maximo previously, and they weren't very successful at kind of implementing it. And I think that had an impact on the kind of business. But then, they got it right. And they've got it right ever since, really. They kind of implemented Maximo, and they use it for everything, even to the point where we were driving the asset management kind of improvement plan through Maximo. I was booking my time, so they were able to track the costs. So the fact that they can provide all the information, and so it's quite a great, it's a good tool and a good kind of approach to have. But it's not impossible. But it all depends on the scale of organizations. And I've seen spreadsheets being used, and I know spreadsheets, we really shouldn't be using spreadsheets anymore. A data fairy dies every time we mention spreadsheets these days. But the technology is out there to make best use of the information that we have and the decision making. But it's not impossible. But to build an enduring kind of platform that's going to help you drive continuous improvement, the technology is necessary.
Thanks, Ken. I think that's definitely something we see. Technology without a program is hard to be successful. A program without technology is also hard to be successful. And distinguishing between asset management software and asset management programs, like your overall approach. Okay, so eager question, throw it out to everybody. What was the most difficult part? And let's just, all of you could just think, one quick thing that was most difficult in your view.
getting the organization to buy in, because we need everybody on board.
Definitely buy-in, for sure.
Pollop, how about from your perspective?
Oh yes, I definitely agree with my team. it is a quite a journey with getting people to understand the benefit of this program, right? I mean, we often get asked, I mean, what's in it for me? You know, so without them understanding, without all the staff understanding what's the benefit at the end of the day, it is difficult because this require them to learn, right? To learn new software, to learn new program. And again, coming from, yes, using spreadsheet in terms of putting in information, going into using Maximo software. And you're talking on a lower level staff, for example, you know, those staff that literally digging those holes and fixing those pipe, you know, they're hands-on staff, and now you're telling them that they have to use computer, not only just to put in Excel spreadsheet. Now you're asking them to work on Maximo with tabs and things of that nature. So it is definitely a journey to get to this point.
So then another question, obviously you are one division in the city. Has there been carryover to other city divisions from your example of pursuing asset management and achieving certification?
I think there's been some interest in some of the other departments, right, Melody? We've got some contact from some department heads that are looking for some information, especially outside the utility. Some of the municipalities we've dealt with are looking into starting a true asset management system, and we've assisted in some areas of that, especially City Fort Lauderdale and a couple of other different areas.
Yeah, within the county, Pollop and obviously like our utility director, Ali Bayat, they would present to like the management team, or is that what you call them? Like cross-functional teams, Pollop, for the rest of the county. And from time to time, they would present, you know, what asset management is it, you know, like the benefits of it. In fact, we're thinking about like expanding this type of approach and like offering it just to like show them, you know, you guys can also do this. Maybe compliance first, or at least embed the framework. So
Fantastic. And my apologies for saying city instead of county.
that's fine.
That's a perfect segue into just a wrap-up question. Mark, I want to bring you in on this. You know, going back to where we started with talking about our joint paper efforts to promote asset management across all 50 states through the EPA and different state organizations. Palm Beach team, you know, really showed your interest in being a leader and helping promote asset management. I loved hearing that approach. You know, what are the benefits? How can we work together more to promote asset management in the water sector? Mark, I'll let you kick off on that answer.
I would just say, keep talking about it. Keep talking about, you know, examples of people that are doing great jobs, what's made the program successful, coordination, and certification is not the end goal. That was mentioned a couple of minutes before the end of the presentation. And I was lucky enough to be at New York Power Authority's certificate presentation when they got certified. And I remember their COO gave a short speech where he said, you know, the journey doesn't stop with certification. It's just a mile marker on the journey. It's going to disappear off in that mirror behind us. You know, don't take your foot off the gas when you get to certification. You know, I think that's a message. But in terms of helping in the water industry, it's just showcasing the work that people like Palm Beach County is doing. But I also think talking about programs that are like 1 or 2 years into the start of what they're doing is important, because sometimes when you look at successful programs that have been certified, it might seem like a huge hill to climb. If you can learn from people that are a couple of years ahead of you, you know, it's probably more relatable. So I think we need, you know, case studies over a wide range of maturity levels to help people understand what's needed.
And for us in the you know, for Palm Beach County Water Utilities, we would, we always like to share a journey. That's why we became active with the Institute of Asset Management. And that's why when, they said like, hey, do you guys want to like, start the branch there? And we said, yes, of course. When they first actually asked us, we have not finished like the journey yet, like towards certification. So we said like, no, we're gonna wait until we have this. So we have all that lessons learned as we go into the branch, right? And with that, like we network, we help other utilities. We in fact help like towards the having like the Southwest form their own branch, just because in Florida it's pretty long, kind of hard to like visit each other. But becoming part of the institute, becoming involved in asset management, trying to encourage others to do the journey, however long it takes. That's why when we work with Ken, it's always like that horizon-based, self-paced approach, because we want to learn. We just don't want people to help us and then they go away and then the program disappears, right? We want this embedded in our culture. So day one, we know what we wanted. We want that legacy embedded in the culture of the utility. So when Pollop and Tony and Melody and Ken and the rest of us win the lottery, it's still going to go on and leave that legacy there for others to follow.
I love that outlook, Melody, the sustainability of it, the self-sustaining. It does not rely, you've built a program and a culture that does not rely on these personalities here to persist, for it to persist. All right, well, I think we've hit the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody who has joined us. Ken, thank you for joining us late into your evening, all the way from England. Team from Palm Beach County, we really appreciate your generosity and time and sharing. Mark, thank you so much for joining us to share about the white paper. A bunch of fantastic resources available coming out of this recording. We encourage everybody to follow up, go to the Asset Leadership Network website for the recording of the presentation, for downloads of slides, and to get a copy of the joint white paper. I'm going to hand it back to Nick.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Yeah, thanks a lot for your facilitating today's program, and of course for everyone participating, either speaking or putting questions in the chat. That was a really lively discussion. So yeah, just great program. Thanks everyone for attending. And as Jennifer said, you'll be able to find the recording, highlight videos, the paper, and more at our website. And we want to thank our patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, as well as all our organizational members, especially Mentor, APM, and others representing our senior fellows and people helping us make awesome programs like this. And please join us next Thursday at this same time and the following for 2 more in this Water Asset Leadership series. Next week, we'll have Senior Fellow David Totman talking about the EPA Water Asset Management Framework. And then the following week, we'll have Jennifer Zach back to showcase an AI asset management assessment tool for water and all assets. So please, we hope to see you soon. And again, you can find more from this program on our website. Thank you all for coming today. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.